Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast in this reality. The show designed to challenge everything we've been taught. If you've ever felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Time to open your mind and dive in. This is the Mental Mastery Alliance Podcast.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mental Mastery Alliance Podcast. Today, I am recording on my Shure SM7B, which is normally reserved for my travel, but I went ahead and blew up my Rodecaster, which is a device I purchased in 2019 and have had forever. Only to find out that I didn't have the latest update. So I went hunting and searching for how to fix this, even though my machine told me I had the latest update, I did not have it. Which seems to be a common problem. But anyway, I'm in the middle of fixing it. So we've set Audacity to I guess manage the majority of the workload when it comes to keeping me sound like I'm not standing and yelling at you from a tin can, which I'm sure you're all thankful for. But there's a million things you can do. Like I said, you're getting started on a podcast. You don't have pro gear. Do you need it? I don't know. I'm finding out right now that, I probably didn't need it all this time. But when I bought this, the idea was to have in-house interviews for people sitting around telling stories. And I love the Rodecaster. And honestly, Rode is a company out of Australia, and I'm not getting paid for this, but I'm way off warranty. And their guys are running around trying to figure out how to get this thing sorted and taken care of for me. And on top of that, they've got additional options for either returning it, getting a new one, getting an update. The Rode Duo's out now, and it looks beautiful. Options, yes. And currently, we sit here and we record sans additionnel. But, now we've got the $550 mic sort of sitting in the background, and the, at the time, $1,000 board sitting in the background. These are the things that I was determined that I needed to get the podcast going. And all of these years later, I said, this was a delay for me. I didn't want to have shitty equipment. I didn't believe I could get this out there without my message to sound. It had to sound great. Everything had to be perfect. Certainly 6 or 7 years ago, things were different with regards to what we were able to do with AI, what we were able to do with our computers, all that sort of stuff. Today, we've come leaps and bounds. So if you're in the mindset and the frame of mind to create a podcast, you don't need all the ultra expensive gear to do it. I'm sitting here right now. What you're listening to right now is the Shure SM7B. It's a smaller microphone. Yeah, I think it was like $300. You probably don't even need this. Well, I'm going to tell you, you don't even need this. There are a ton of dynamic mics out there that will do this, especially when you set your audio up through Audacity. You can create buttery smooth sounds. Now, if you sound like a horse's ass just on your own, either through your message or through your voice, and some people are so, God bless them, you just can't listen to their podcasts. The voices are just so far gone. I know a lot of that can be helped. But there are some people that shouldn't be talking too much. And maybe that seems harsh. Maybe we're coming from such a cancel culture that seems like a harsh thing to say. But honestly, if we're gonna put our time into things, it should be what we're good at. I take that back. If you're gonna put your time into something, it should be what you love to do. So every single person has a different take or opinion on what they may think or feel to be a believable or lovable or enjoyable voice. Statistically, people will listen to you if you have a much smoother voice. But if you've got something to say and people are listening to you, it doesn't matter what you sound like. I'm I'm entertained by the idea that somebody could be totally chaotic and still crash through all systemic roadblocks, things that have been pre-programmed into us, just like you're pre-programmed to look at a pretty lady or a smashing young man. I watched the documentary on Luke Perry last night, as a matter of fact, and boy, howdy, did the girls like that fella. Would 90210 have been so successful had they just cast a bunch of uggos? I don't know. But I like that in 2025, I'm allowed to say uggos without cancel culture trying to attack me. How are you supposed to... Blah, 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 blah. I'm just having a fucking conversation, ladies and gentlemen. Just trying to enjoy myself. That Luke Perry, though, that was quite the story. Definitely off topic, but it certainly made me think about that. This what we're doing here. Get out there and create is the bottom line. Do the thing that makes you happy no matter what it is. But I am saying again, with a podcast, you don't need the fancy gear. I wish somebody had been more forthcoming with me on that, back in the day. But then maybe back in the day I did need the fancy gear. And then maybe right now I'm just lying to myself to make myself feel better that we spent all that money on all the equipment. Maybe we didn't need it. But I'm going to tell you, I think we did. I think we did. It's the learning curve. It's the learning process. We as in I needed it. You, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But here's where I went wrong with it, and I'll tell you right now. I bought this for the intent of doing 4-person interviews, like I had said earlier. COVID rolled around and took it out. If you're doing 4-person in-house interviews, the Rodecaster is a dream machine. But if you're the kind of person that's only going to be doing in-house interviews or one-on-ones, like as in me right now, I'm just talking to you, or with a guest, but guests come in through Zoom for the most part. They don't come to your house anymore. So if you're doing groups, hands down, get the Rodecaster. If you're not doing groups, there are so many different ways around it. That I can assure you. You got to do what you got to do to make your confidence feel right. That is enough about the Rodecaster. We're 6 minutes into this podcast. That's not even what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about reality. And I'm talking to you about reality with our backup system. So yes, jump first, build a parachute on the way down, figure it out. There are always issues. Now, as the term reality, what does that mean to you? And it's funny because I was having this conversation with a girlfriend of mine over a hockey game. And she looks up from her phone as I've just been prattling on for about 5 minutes. And she says, your brain is literally all over the place. She says it so calmly. Meanwhile, I'm like hopping up and down like a chipmunk with all these ideas and tying this into that and this into that. And I don't know. I just thought it was so cathartic to sit here and watch her stare at me calmly, looking up from Candy Crush or whatever it was. I thought, this is such a wonderful moment for me to be like, fuck, man. Save the energy for the podcast. Save the energy for the right audience. Or push the energy all the time. And I'll tell you, I like option number 2. I'm going to push the energy all the time. I'm always going to push it. I'm always going to push the envelope. I'm always going to push the energy. I'm always going to push thinking. And what happens with that is your brain just keeps going. There used to be a moment in time where I was like, hey, man, shut up. Just shut up. Can we stop talking to ourselves for a split second? I've also latently heard recently, latently. I'm trying to merge words. I recently heard that there are people out there that do not have this perpetual inner monologue. I used to have to, before I knew what to do with it, I used to have to put on a song so that it would sing along with the song so I could do other things. Stupid internal thought process. Now I communicate with it. Now this is one of those things where I had somebody ask me, how do you get to, how do you openly talk for 20, 30 minutes at a time without notes or without anything written down? And I said, well, whatever's coming out of my mouth is already out of my mouth. My brain is inside thinking ahead. So I'm as I'm talking to you right now, I'm currently thinking about what's coming next. And he says, I don't understand that at all. I don't understand what you're saying to me. And it was at this point that I'm like, okay, so not all brains do the exact same thing. Which brings me back to reality. If not all brains are doing the exact same thing, then theoretically your brain is the only one doing the right thing because it's you. And I don't mean your brain is in the mushy part inside your head that's creating, or that you think, or that we think that we're thinking with. Because we're not really thinking. We've had this conversation too, where your brain is just a receiver. But is it your brain? Is it the mushy pile of goo inside your head? Or is it something else? And this is where it gets convoluted, because now all of a sudden you've got this idea that you're supposed to be taking part or doing your part in a collective effort here on Earth. We don't know how we got here. We're all in this together. Everything is totally by accident, and we just happen to exist. I remember when I was just starting to wake up, the idea that this is all one cosmic accident, and that we weren't supposed to question who we were, how we got here, all that sort of stuff. It was just like, whatever, man, you're here. Buy some shoes, buy some shirts, do some things. That never sat well with me. Never sat well with me. And so I extrapolated on it more and more and more. And the more you do that, the more you realize that people don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They don't want to hear anything other than what they've already heard. Most people don't want to hear anything other than their own thoughts in your voice. And the funny thing about that is, so now we go down this road, we check into these ideologies, these thought processes. We understand a little bit more about who and what and where we are simply by asking the questions of who and what and where we are. And we come to a shocking revelation that every single person views this whole place differently. So now it comes back to you and how you're going to view this place and how you see what you see and how you understand and comprehend and function based on the information that you have and how you have deciphered the information, which again is how we have all kinds of different personalities all over the place. Now, if you really look into the amount of different personalities we have, it's not many. There's a reason that the astrological people are always correct when it comes to reading your charts. There's 13 types of people. They'll have you believe there's 12, but there are 13 types of people. And yes, when you divide the calendar properly, it's 13 months, 28 days apiece, with one extra day, which is usually the spring equinox, which is the standalone day, which would be April 1st, but we call that April Fool's Day because that's the world we live in. So if you have the ability to extrapolate, if you have the ability to think freely, one thing initially lands heavily on your plate, which is even that I'm thinking freely is part of my programming. So that kind of hurts certain things. And I'm not sure if the system's breaking down or if the thing that we're plugged into is overloading or what's happening. But the craziness that keeps happening in this realm, to me, is, well, somebody once said that you're not creating new thoughts. And that resonated with me because I always thought, how the hell could you get somewhere without having that information? So you could think about stuff, but everything you've ever thought about is something that you've experienced. And every piece of information that you have in your head is something that was put in there by someone at some point or another. There are no original thoughts. Just like for some reason we can't invent a number past 9. it wouldn't work. And it's hard to make up words in the lexicon. So all the words have been invented. Well, that's interesting too. In all the languages have been invented. Oh, well, that's interesting too. There's so much that I don't even the further down the rabbit hole you go, especially inside your own brain and with regards to your own identity inside this world, the more questions you're left with. And so when I sit back and when I look at, and again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for bearing with me on this because it's a little bit of a convoluted statement and my own brain isn't fully wrapped around the idea of this. It is, though. It's working on it. But yes, since there's no possible way for us to have new thoughts that I figured out, I mean, we can extrapolate, but extrapolation is just if this, then that, which was also a process taught to us. So to come up with new, shocking ideas, somebody once said, you're not having new memories. You're clearing out the debris and realizing, so you're not having new thoughts. You're clearing out the debris and realizing old memories. And that was a huge piece of the pie for me. So if I'm sitting here and my brain is deducing on a much higher level than it was a year ago, then now I am in full understanding and comprehension of how I'm seeing things, if that makes sense. Because the new information that I'm pulling isn't new, it's old. And then again, we are tied into the old saying, there's nothing new under the sun. So if I'm able to tap into old source code, old memories, old this, old that, then theoretically I should be able to break out. Also, we think that we're in this world with everybody else in this world and all that sort of stuff. We've also heard many things like the 5400, or the idea that we're here with 7 travelers that are us, or the idea that this is a simulation, or the idea that we're in hollow earth or concave earth, or the idea that we are real and this is all fake, or the idea that, flat earth, globe earth, all of these potential ideas that all lead to, for the most part, confusion, arguments, name calling. Nobody really wants to dig further into it. But the world itself is collapsing. So if we detract absolutely everything, if we take away all of the absurd, then we're left with a relative answer. And that answer is you are having an experience. You, the listener. Hello, I'm talking to you. And since your experience can't possibly be the only one here, because how could your experience exist without my experience? Well, now you're talking about the true multiverse. The multiverse is where we are right now, where every action has an equal and opposite reaction. How every single one of us needed everything to happen the way it happened for our lives to progress the way they did. And the amount of times that your life intertwines with somebody else to create a version is mind-numbing. So what? Are we all of the people? In a divisive world, that makes no sense whatsoever. But in a world where you and I are 2 pieces of the identical consciousness, which again is the only thing that really makes sense, because individual consciousness has too many variables, would be the best way to put it. I used to believe in individual consciousness. I used to believe that all that can truly be stated is that I exist and you are a reflection of me existing. Do I know that you exist? No. Do you know that I exist outside of you? No. Other than you're listening to my voice right now. Most of you haven't even seen my face. To most of you, I'm just a voice in your ear once a week. Well, we shoot for once a week. Doesn't always happen. Oh, we should probably do more. Well, you know what? If I've got more creativity. Last week we did 2. Yeah, that was all right. That's good times. But I digress. If singular consciousness was a thing, that's pretty boring. Because now you have to think of what's outside of singular consciousness. And people are like, what do you mean by that? Well, it's like if we're in this reality and learning all these lessons, and everyone's like, well, no, you go here, or you go there, or don't enter the light because it's we're on a prison planet. And if you enter the light, you recycle. Yet we're taught to enter the light. So much obscure peculiarities continue on. But there are so like I said, there are so many possibilities out there. There are so many statements that we've been told. And it's up to us to find the best one. So for me, singular consciousness doesn't make sense. Again, we have an external. All the lessons that we learn in here, theoretically, if this is a simulation, would be applied to whatever world we were in that turned the simulation on. If we are connected to, or tethered to, or chained to an outward being. And there's a lot in movies right now where you're seeing us tethered to different souls. What is it? Us? Or them? One of them. Maybe it's the same one. Where they're saying how these people are tethered to underground people. And the theory is that right now you and I would be the underground people tethered to those above us. And yet we don't fully understand what above ground is. Now we also have the island. The island talks about us being clones waiting to be harvested by other entities for other things. Now that's a very physical statement, as in they're going to need parts of our body. But maybe not. Maybe we're here to have our energy harvested by certain entities out there, or our thought processes, or anything like that. Because the idea of physical, again, is fabricated. All things physical are fabricated. This is an energy-based universe. It's even been stated in science, where you break open the breaking blocks of society and you're left with looking at quarks, and quasons, which is energy. So more and more and more, you have these absurd awakenings, awarenesses, understandings, comprehensions. And then you understand that every single thing that you could possibly comprehend was handed to you from inside the game. So it's a bit of a toss-up. But what happens here is people get wrapped up in their ideologies, wrapped up in the belief system that they think that they need to have, and then they attack. So a lot of people aren't living their happiest moments because we're taught to chase money. We're taught to impress the Joneses. We're taught to keep up. We're taught to vote. We're taught to do all these things that are distractionary. But the cool thing about the distraction is if they exist, it's your journey. It's your path. It is the use of these items that allows you to see who and what and where you are. And the idea that we get to leave here, I think, is an interesting one too, because, where do we go from here? Think about high school, for example. All we ever wanted was to get out. Now you look back and be like, give me 2 more years. Not at my age. Mind you, if you could go back to high school right now at your age, surrounded by the same people, your age, you'd have something to talk about. Imagine you and a group of people went to the same place every day. And I don't mean like work. Like, these people go to work because they need to pay their bills because they're stressed out. I mean, like, we had fucking nothing to worry about in high school, like nothing. How great would it be to go to a place for a week? It's basically just human daycare. It's the same as the prison system. It's a place to lock in and indoctrinate children to make them believe a certain thing as they move forward. It's not here to help you, but it'd be so cool to go back and hang out. Just go there for 4 or 5 hours a day. What are you doing? I'm fucking wasting my life in school right now because I'm 40 years old and this is what we do because it's stupid. It's what we were supposed to do. Sounds dumb at 40. Sounds even dumber when you're in your formidable years, your hunter-gatherer years, your understanding and life-building years. We're taught to be weak. We're taught to be pathetic. Every single thing that we see on TV, we're not as cool as them. We're not as flashy as them. We don't have their kind of money. Every single girl under the sun, wear this makeup, wear this outfit, wear this dress because you're not good enough without it. I mean, Jesus Christ, they destroyed us during our adolescence. But who's they? Right now, I mean, again, of course, I could go on and on and on about this. But again, it comes down to you. You are they. And who else is they? We are they. And who are we? We are consciousness. We are Borg. Yes, I'm a Star Trek nerd. Yes, I never watched any of the Star Warses. Locutus of Borg. I am Hugh. My brain goes on these weird tangents. Yeah, Kyla, it does do weird things. You're right. Thank you for talking to your speakers. So, as you're having this experience and as you're going through this world and as you're doing all the things that you're doing, understand that while you're on this journey, you're here to understand why you came here. You're here to pick up your own pieces, for that matter. You're here to do the thing that you came here to do. And for some of us, it's just watching. And for others, it's taking a leadership role. And for a lot of entities that are here, they're NPCs, they're empty. They are background characters for your story. Now, everything that I just said could be completely false, but it's the version of the multiverse that makes the most sense to me. It's how we can have a president like Joe Biden. And what I mean by that is it's absurd to think that Joe Biden was looked at as a president. He could not form a sentence. It's absurd to think that President Trump is a president. He's a fucking talk show host. But even before that, it was absurd to think that the Western actor Ronald Reagan would have made a good president. Until you realize that all of the people and all of the entertainment and all of the stuff is all the same. You have to have something fake to have something real. It's an interesting correlation that the brain does. We cannot believe in this, but if you don't believe in this, then you must believe in that. Distraction, distraction, distraction. When you're becoming too close to waking up, you get distracted with all kinds of shit. My life, for example, has been relatively difficult the past few weeks, months. And I say relatively because compared to other people, it's not difficult at all. But compared to me and how I'm trying to proceed with life, I'm finding it interestingly challenging. At one point, it would have broken me. But at this point, I realize that it's redirection. It's drawing me to a higher power, higher source, a higher substance, whatever it is. And every single one of my setbacks is an opportunity to do something new, to adapt, to learn, to grow, to create, and then to share the knowledge. And for me, one of the greatest things I can possibly do is share the knowledge. That's where it works for me. I've gone a little bit long, and that has to do with the fact that I had to talk about Rode, I suppose, for the first 6 minutes of the show. But still wild, ladies and gentlemen. And the annoying voice that changed my opinion halfway through my initial set. I don't think I brought it up because my brain jumps all over the place. Roseanne Barr has an absolutely terrible voice, but she made a career out of it. So I stand corrected when I say if you've got a terrible voice, you can't do it. If you've got a terrible voice and you want to do it, go and do it and send me a link to your podcast. I will follow, and supply some insight as to how you might be able to change your audacity. If you don't have a horrible voice and you're still doing it, keep up the good work. If you have any questions, send it to us, info@the Mental Mastery Alliance. We will help you with your podcast if we can. All I can say now, I suppose, ladies and gentlemen, is we don't have the ability to fully, truly understand what we are doing here. What we do have is the ability to fight everybody. And you know how well that works out for all the fun people. It's dumb. So, instead of fighting, I'm going to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, in the infamous words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long-distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.